Get in on the secret. September is one of the best times to visit the Boardwalk Plaza Hotel in Rehoboth Beach. The weather is grand, and just steps from the sand, you can relax and experience the convenience of their oceanfront location right on the Rehoboth Beach Boardwalk. Enjoy Victoria's Restaurant, the charming Plaza Pub and room service. Visit boardwalkplaza.com and book your perfect getaway today, or call 800-33-BEACH for fast, friendly assistance. Thanks to the Boardwalk Plaza for being the Bridge Podcast Network sponsor.
Gee Willikers. If you've ever wondered why Christians say the word Josh, you found the right podcast.
No one says Josh.
Well, it's GIF and not GIF, so I figured Josh and gosh.
Well, I mean, they say Josh to a person whose name is Josh.
Just kidding.
Oh.
You've got the right podcast.
Wait. What are we talking about today? Hold on now. What?
If you've ever wondered why Christians say gosh, you found the right podcast. I'm Mark Dickey.
And I'm Bert Miller.
This is the Why Do Christians podcast. Hey, my name is Mark Dickey. I host the afternoon show on the Bridge radio station. My co-host is Pastor Bert Miller of Solid Ground Church. Bert, how are you today?
Mark, Stephen, Curtis, Dickey. I'm doing well.
You said Stephen, and I thought, no, you can't guess my real name yet.
Yeah, but I wasn't.
That's not my real middle name.
That's not your real middle name.
No.
Yeah.
No. All right, you get one guess.
Okay.
The podcast ends forever if you guess correctly.
Oh, man. Okay. I'm looking at you. I want to say Charles?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope.
That's not Chuck either.
That's two guesses.
Well, Charles, like Chuck would be a derivative of Charles, right?
Oh, I guess. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
No, it's not Chuck.
Okay.
Mark Chuck Dickey.
Yeah. One of these days, Mark, I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And we're done here.
So today we are going to talk about all of the fun things.
Wait, really, that would be the worst escape room in history.
What?
If I had the only way we get out of the room is if I have to guess your middle name correctly.
Bartholomew.
Oh, is that it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Sorry.
never mind.
Okay. What were we talking about?
Today we're going to talk about the word gosh,
Okay.
which is Christianese for not saying God.
Yes.
Because we culturally have made it okay to say, oh my gosh,
But not.
instead of,
Yeah.
which is funny because, oh my God.
Oh, you did the thing, Mark.
I did it.
You did the thing.
I did it.
Yeah, you want to turn it into a prayer right now so you don't waste the time. Or should we just tell them what's behind that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the deal?
Yeah, so
Because at some point the word gosh just becomes another word for God.
That is true.
And now you're just doing it again.
in fact, Mark, if you were to this moment Google dictionary definition of the word gosh, it would say that it's a euphemism for God. In fact, the definition of it is that it's an exclamation, informal, used to express surprise or give emphasis. And the word itself, I did my homework, Mark. The word itself, first, as far as we know, was first appeared in 1757 as an alternative for saying the word God. Isn't that interesting?
I want you to hear, I think I have the right video.
Okay.
I say gosh a lot.
Okay.
So much so that my 2-year-old Claire.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
She's saying,
Gosh.
Oh gosh.
oh man, she said it. She said it.
She'll just walk around the house. Oh gosh. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Oh gosh. So that's interesting that it's in the dictionary
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
So the whole point is don't take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so that's why we do that. Like Christians, you'll notice we tend to come up with alternative words to standard profanity. So typically people will do is they'll take God's name and they'll put it in a situation where it's a swear or a use of exclamation or surprise.
Right.
We don't do that because of traditional, not even traditional, just ways that folks have read the third commandment, which is in Exodus 20 verse 7, which says, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain." And so what happens is we just go, well, we're not going to do that. And so we come up with a different word. But the craziest thing, man, I remember being in seminary and in my Hebrew 101 class, we were studying that verse, and the professor was talking about how the word that we translate taking in vain, it actually has to do with the idea of a person taking up a banner. And so the idea is that you don't represent God in a false manner.
Huh.
Right? And so,
whoa.
Right? And so and that completely threw off how I had ever heard that verse. And so I just asked, okay, does that mean that it's okay? Like when people are saying, the name of God in a thoughtless manner, that they're wrong to do that. And he said, well, that's kind of just the lowest rung of that ladder. So yes, it's still wrong to do, but what God is getting at in the third commandment, there's actually something much bigger, and that's the idea of representing him poorly. So you figure the Israelites, they're going into the promised land. That's the context for the 10 commandments, right? And they're going to represent God. They're going to be a light to the rest of the world. They're going to live differently. And what God is saying from the jump is, you don't represent me in a way that is full of hypocrisy, that's meaningless, that's empty. And this whole, even that, everything about that verse, I think sometimes we just don't quite get the full significance. So to take the name of the Lord in vain. How many of us, our 21st century context and experience with the idea of a name it's just a sound that you make, right? Mm-hmm. How many people, they name their kids, why'd you name your kid that? Because it sounded good at the time. And I'm not judging you if you did that, okay? But just culturally, that's how we do things, right? Mm-hmm. That's not how ancient Near Eastern people understood names. So for instance, you find as you go through the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, over and over again, it'll talk about God's name, but it's not just saying a sound that you make. So for instance, the psalmist says it in Psalm 9:10, he says, "Those who know your name trust you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you." Because a person's name wasn't just a sound that you make, it was a representation of their character. And so when the psalmist is saying, "Those who know your name trust you," what's the psalmist saying? That the person is saying, God, your character is such that you're trustworthy, right? In the same way you can think of the famous prophecy of the Messiah in Isaiah 9, where it says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be on his shoulder." And listen to this, "And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace," right? His name shall be called, meaning this is what he does. This is who he is. Okay, another one would be Isaiah 57:15, where he says, "For this is what the high and exalted one says, he who lives forever, whose name is holy." Why is his name holy? Because God is holy. All right? And so when it comes to this idea of don't take the Lord's name in vain, what it's saying is don't represent God in a way that is meaningless, that's not true, that's hypocrisy, that's full of empty. In other words, don't look like you're my people and not be my people.
Man.
Right? Completely different than how we read that verse.
Yeah. It makes that commandment so much heavier.
Yeah.
And not just and this command is don't say that one line.
Right. Yeah, don't say God's name with a bad attitude. Right. as though he's petty. Now, to be clear, God is holy, and God deserves our reverence in every interaction that we have with even saying his name. Okay? So I'm not suggesting that we just throw the Lord's name on the end of a sentence when we're surprised or link it with a profanity. I think that would be sinful and just wrong. Mm-hmm. But the command is so much bigger than that. It's why you find as you go through the Hebrew Bible, God rebuking his people for, at points, even they're keeping the law, but their hearts aren't in it. So, famously in Isaiah 29:13, it's actually Jesus quotes this verse in Matthew where he says, "These people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is based on merely human rules that they've been taught." In other words, they're saying the right stuff, but they don't love me. And that would be a taking of God's name in vain.
Nobody's perfect.
Sure.
That's why it's a commandment.
Right.
And Jesus even goes through all the commandments and talks about, if you look at someone, with lust in your eye, that's adultery. And if you have hate in your heart, that's murder. And
Right.
we all mess up with the 10 Commandments every single day, it seems.
Sure.
Or, frequently, I should say, not every single day. I'm just reminded of this post that kind of broke my heart that I see every once in a while, that a waitress posted, like that she hates working on Sundays.
I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's always the lunch rush after church.
Yeah.
And the Sunday lunch crowd are some of the grumpiest or stingiest people.
Don't tip well, rude. Yeah.
And that's kind of, I'm just reminded of that post as the church crowd.
Correct.
And so with this in
That would be taking
perspective
God's name in vain.
of,
Yes.
yeah, like,
Yes.
okay, yeah, we're all Christians. Well, not that people are running out and doing that. Like,
Right.
we're Christians and we're going to be terrible. But
Let me tell you what church I don't want to be a part of. Would be that one right there, right? Yeah.
But we really do need to be careful about how we represent ourselves as Christians.
Sure.
And yeah.
Well, think about, where Jesus says in John, he says, like, the world will know that you're my disciples by how you love each other. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's a true disciple of Jesus? A person who loves others well.
And they will know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Bert, does that mean I can say
No.
for the record, we just paused for a long time and I didn't say anything.
Yeah, you can tell them that, Mark. I heard what you said. Wow. So much venom from one man. I didn't even know. I'm kidding. Yeah, he didn't say anything. That was a in-post bleep that was added there. No, and the reason is the Bible gives us clear instruction to be mindful with our words, the intent and thought behind them, and also the content of them. So sometimes we think, I just said it, doesn't matter, it's out there in the stratosphere. But Jesus gives explicit teaching. He says in Matthew 12, 36 and 37, he says, but I tell you that everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they've spoken. For by your words you'll be acquitted, and by your words you'll be condemned. And so, if we're saying, like, can Christians swear or not, I don't know that that's simple. And, sometimes, we if you're raised like I was, and I was raised in a Christian house, and there were words that we were told we don't say, as we heard people say them. Hey, Mom, what's this mean? No, we don't say that word, right? And I get that. Profanity can be largely cultural, right? So words that actually might be offensive to me might not be offensive in a different place in the world.
Right.
Okay.
Looking at you, Ireland.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we just say whatever. It's just the intention of the words and what they do and what they cause to happen to others matter. Okay, so for instance, like there are plenty of biblical commands that talk about how we speak. I'm thinking of, like, there's a couple passages in Ephesians, like Paul says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may be beneficial to those who listen. The idea is, okay, like the words that we use build others up. They don't tear them down, right? So we don't swear at people. We don't berate them verbally. We don't do anything like that. In fact, anything to know is that the word that we translate there as unwholesome with the unwholesome talk, it's the Greek word sapros, and it's actually has a connotation of rotten fruit. And the idea is, like, you don't want your words to rot people. You don't want words to rot you or rot situations. Instead, we build up. But again, you think about, like, Ephesians 5, 3, and 4, where Paul says, but among you there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality or of any kind of impurity, greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. And then listen to what he says. Okay, like, we would go, yeah, duh. But he links it to something that sometimes we forget. He says, nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. And the idea of coarse joking being like telling, explicit jokes, inappropriate jokes, that type of thing. Because what the words do is they normalize a flippancy towards a worldview of God's creation, sexuality, the human body, another person. They normalize things that might not be full of light. And so, I can think of certain words that we won't believe because I won't say them, that at their root, okay, I'm saying it, but do I understand what's behind the word? So for instance, one that would have to do with a person's eternal destiny. It starts with the fourth letter of the alphabet, right? And it's just said, Mark's thinking on it right now. It's the alternative of darn.
Okay.
And that's just a word. I mean, people say it all the time, but really we're talking about an eternity apart from God. Okay. Is that something that we want to just say when we stub our toe? Is that, and I don't believe, I don't adhere to, the notion that sort of, you speak it into existence or anything like that. I don't see anything for that in the Bible. I think that's has more to do with Eastern spirituality than biblical Christianity. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I just say stuff out because I can,
I know the Bible has a place where it talks about, is it filthy? No, not filthy. Filthy's not in the Bible.
No, it is.
Unwholesome talk. Is that it?
Well, there's unwholesome talk, but there's also, there's filthy language.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, we're dealing with exhortations to believers. Hey guys, don't do it like this. So we're dealing with people who have already been redeemed by Christ, who are in the family of God. And I just like to bring that up again because what, I would hate for anybody listening to hear is, okay, if I just do this, God will accept me. And the scriptures are clear. The one thing that you need to do to have God accept you is believe on Jesus. Believe that he died for your sin, rose from the dead. If you do that, you are made right with God as anyone can possibly be. So this isn't a thing of, faking it or adherence to a moral code for the sake of being part of a club. Like if you believe on Jesus, you're in the club. Okay. But with this idea of filthy language, Colossians chapter 3, verse 8 says, but now you must also, okay, so what do I do in response to what God has done for me? Right? Now you must also rid yourselves of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice. And we go, we don't want to be rageful, okay? But then he makes it clear what kind he's talking about: slander and filthy language from your lips. Up until this point, actually, in Colossians, what Paul's been doing is he's been describing the life that Christians he's writing to left behind. And now he's telling them they need to give up their former sinful path or practices, okay? And so for instance, I want to just get the lead into this filthy language translation because it's actually pretty powerful. So he said there should be no slander, okay? And the word, again, that's sort of talking about someone, besmirching their character or lying about them, right? The word that we translate as slander there is the Greek word blasphemia, which is where we get our word blasphemy from. What's blasphemy? Blasphemy is lying and speaking untrue things about God. And I think that's important to realize, that is Paul saying you're blaspheming against God if you slander someone? No, not in the sense that it's I slandered and ultimately I've lied about God. At the same time, let's use absolute care that lying about someone, impugning their character, saying something that's not true, that's a sin against God. And that's not for us as believers. And so as it goes forward and he says there should be no filthy language, something interesting to note is that term that we translate as filthy language, it only occurs once in the entire New Testament, and it's right here. Okay? And so if we want to understand what he's talking about, really the only way that we can do that is to see how it's used in other ancient Greek documents. And if you look it up, it has a connotation of abusive language to it. It's the idea of talking at someone in anger. And so, okay, what's the point of lumping together anger, rage, malice, slander, and abusive language? The idea is that they're all connected. That there's this sort of attitude of speech towards other people. I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you're mad at somebody, right? And I mean really mad, bearing a grudge, okay? Have you noticed how easy it is to slide into angry language about the person? Whether you guise that as a prayer request or what have you, or I'm venting or whatever you want to say. Have you just noticed how it's really, really easy, man? You won't believe what so-and-so did to me. You can't sort of wait to tell the story and the anger that's associated with that, right? And Paul's going to get rid of all of that. That's not for you. Why? Because we are a community of forgiveness. and that's got to be demonstrated in our speech as well. And so, if we were to say things like, okay, what words should Christians and should Christians not say? Let's understand that. And again, I'm not saying that obscenities, that we should just, be flippant with the bleep button and say whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's a bigger deal than the specific words, and that's what you do with them. Like, do you build up human beings, or do you tear them down through what you say? That's the more important thing right now. Then, okay, I use the word darn, or I use the word gosh, or I don't even use either of those. Like, are you making a person's life better through what you say? Are you making them feel more loved by God, and not even just feel? Because I know sometimes we have to confront with hard truths, and the person might not feel that great as a result. But is the person's spiritual life being made better through what you're saying and doing? Or do you give any thought to that? These are the ways that the New Testament talk about when it comes to the idea of language and what we do with our language.
I mean, is it ever appropriate? Not necessarily like the Lord's name in vain or something like that, but like if it's not a casual thing?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess my question would be, what's the reason that you want to use the word, right? Like when I was in middle school, I developed a habit of swearing because I wanted to be cool, right? And so, I mean, if I use this word, oh man, look, I'm edgy on this. Like, is there some part of you that does that, or is it a thing of, man, I've just grown up, this is what people say? I mean, it really depends on what you're wanting to do with the word.
Yeah. Is it confession time?
Lay it out on the mic for the world.
I definitely don't like to use anything casually. And I've always said, this isn't scripturally based at all whatsoever, but that if you want a word to lose its power, use it over and over again. You go, oh, that's just so-and-so. They talk that way. They've got a sailor's mouth.
Right.
But like when you hear me, a Christian radio host, use a certain word, you're like, oh, he's serious. You're actually using communication for the sake of communication. We were at staff meeting a couple weeks ago.
You guys were swearing in there?
Somebody asked how something was going.
Okay.
And I was so mad about it. And I used a particular word. And for the next 2 days, people were stopping by my office saying, Mark, are you okay?
Yeah.
It's like, even though like I don't like to use certain words, it was like, oh, I actually effectively communicated what's going on in my heart.
Yeah. I mean, having not been there and heard the word, I don't, but again, like I think, because there's some people that what they'll do is they'll use words, and I've been guilty of this in the past, where I use a word to show how angry I am about a situation, like to communicate. But I think the thing to realize is, okay, but are you doing that because you want to convey your emotion, or? And again, I'm not even saying that that's okay. Okay, because I think that like the tall and short of it is, what will it do in another person to hear you use that word? Okay, like so for instance, like what's it do for your witness? Like what in terms of what people think Christians are and do? Does it tell somebody that you're a hypocrite if you use that word because of their understanding and so and so's not to be trusted? Oh, they say this, they said. Like, Mark talks one way on the air, but he talks somewhere else behind. Like that would make me take pause with, okay, how do we do this? But there are other people, they'll use the words as an intimidation factor. I'm gonna get louder. I'm gonna get with these words because it's gonna cause somebody to shrink back so that I'll get my way. That's not okay.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to what you're using the word for and what the word means. Like there are some words that I just think there's no redemptive value to ever saying them because they just like what they are talking about doesn't build anyone up. And so I don't think there is any one light switch answer other than be careful in what you say and let your words be seasoned with salt. Let them edify those who hear. Let them build them up. And if those words don't do that, there's a pastor who was, decades ago or however long it's been, famous for, he believed that he had leniency in Christ to say whatever he wanted to say. To his core, believed that using profanity in the pulpit was not a sin, and it caused a lot of issues for folks. I say to my shame, I have once in 14 years, I think, one time in particular that's coming to mind, I was quoting an explicit lyric and making a point, hey, this is a word we don't say because of what it means and how it cuts people down. And I repeated it a few times for shock value, to basically like, so that it would provoke. Okay, but I had people leave the church over it.
Whoa.
And the reason that they did was they were like, like, there's a place for that, and what you just did was out of place. Like you violated the sanctity of the pulpit or whatever. And I don't know that they were wrong, because when you come into a church, you're not expecting. You shouldn't have to be on guard from the minister saying that from stage. What if my kid's in the room? What if there's that?
Right.
So I say that maybe to my shame. I was trying to make a point, but it wasn't a point that I should have made.
I feel like we got into a lot of nitty gritty with this episode. And also you spelled things out that I never would have imagined. I wonder if there's more to this topic that we can explore in a future episode.
I bet you're right. Yeah.
Like, because I mean, the Bible says a lot about the words that you say. And, so yeah, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, you guys totally didn't talk about,
are you about to believe it?
No, like if there's a part of whether it's profanity or the words or using the Lord's name in vain or anything like that, that's still kind of fuzzy for you, we'd love to make a future episode about it. So email your questions to podcast@wearethebridge.org, and we would love to hear from you. And be sure to subscribe and rate the podcast wherever you listen to it. And again, thanks for listening.